Hi, it's Martin and welcome to another video on my Knit365 YouTube channel. Today's video is my first real video in January where we're going to chat about some projects. There's been no finished objects this week. It is only still the first week in January though, so I think that's okay. We have some whips. I have found my book. And there have been no acquisitions. There have been acquisitions, but they haven't arrived. So I have no new wool to show you yet. So hi, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Martin. I live in Cardiff and I am a knitter and crocheter and wannabe spinner. More on that in another video. Yeah, you are very welcome to my little corner of YouTube. This is the Knit365 podcast where I try to knit a little every day and then share my adventures with you folks. We've had a few new subscribers recently, so hi, you are very welcome. There are loads of videos here on my channel. You may want to hop back to the very first video. It's very clumsy. There's music all the way through it, but it kind of talks a bit about my background and how I got into knitting and crochet. If you are a returning viewer, hi, thank you so much for coming back and giving me a little bit more of your time today. It's wonderful to have you all here. So yeah, week one of January, that's what we'll call this one. And I've decided that I'm going to focus on whips, works in progress, at least in January. I've made a commitment not to start any new projects. I did put a little short up on the weekend and I popped it on Instagram as well. No new projects. I really want to try and get my works in progress down. I've got loads of things that I want to work on and loads of new projects and patterns that I've seen from folks that I'd love to get started, but I really do need to clear the needles and the hook and get some things finished. So what I thought I would just do today is a very short video. I think it's going to be a short video. I've gathered the projects that I'm going to focus on throughout January, at least, and see how much progress I can make. So I thought I would just share them with you. Talk a little bit more about my plans then, and yeah, just hang out and have a bit of a chat if that's okay. So I hope that you've got a drink. I have some squash, cordial for you non-UK people. When I say I'm drinking squash, people leave in the comment go, what squash? Cordial, if you don't know. I think it is called cordial in the UK, or we have cordials, but we call it squash. I don't know why. So I hope that you've got a drink. I hope you've got a project or something crafting related to keep you company. So yeah, let's just jump straight in then. No finished objects, which is okay. If I manage to finish everything on my January plan though, we would have 5 finished objects this month. We all know we're going to get to February and I'm not going to have 5 finished objects. So we will see what happens. But I found my book. And this is the book where I write down all of my works in progress. I used to. I've been doing this since January 2022. Write down all my works in progress. The red ones are the ones that I wanted to focus on. Then we would mark down finished objects, new cast-ons, and then just other things that I wanted to chat about. And I did really well, and then not so much. And I didn't lose the book. I kind of forgot about the book, and yeah, we got out of habit. And I think it went from July 2023 to January 2024, then to April, and that was it. So I've not really kept it up to date since last April. I had this for Christmas one year. My mum and dad bought this for me. I don't know where they got it from, but it's really cute. So I've now found the book. It was in my stash amongst all the project bags. So I found my book and I'm going to update the book. So full disclosure, I do not know how many whips I've got. The last time, so as at April, the ones that were live in April that are still live today, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess you call that 7. I did 1 row on it, but it's on the needles. 7, 8. So there were 8 things on that list. 4 are not on that list. One of them is the fade socks are on that list. 4 of the projects I'm going to talk about aren't on that list. So that takes us to 12. And I want to say there's another project somewhere. So I think let's go for 12, because I definitely know there's 12 whips. Yeah. Now, the Christmas tree's gone. All the decorations have gone. The flat looks like we've been robbed because we have quite a big tree. We have high ceilings. We're really lucky. So we have a big tree. We have a 7-foot tree. And it's just really imposing in the corner. And it looks lovely. And it's so festive. And we love having it. But whenever it goes, the flat looks bare. But I can now get to my craft corner because I've got an IKEA bookshelf with some cubbies. And all the projects live in those cubbies. So now I know where the book is. Now I can get to the cupboard. One task this week is to then get all the project bags off the shelf and then update the list. So for next week's video, I will do a full disclosure on works in progress. But we're going to go for 12 for now. And yeah, I've got loads of yarn in my stash. I've got loads of things that I want to start, but I've also got loads of things on the needles that are quite old. And I want to try and make some progress on them. So I've decided no new projects in January. January is only going to be working on whips. And what I've decided, and there's a reason, there's a story behind these, the projects. What I'm going to do in January is then only work on these projects, so these 5, and that's it. The deal being, I'm always going to keep 5 on rotation. So if I finish a project, this is quite close to being finished. If I finish a project, I'll then bring another one in. I won't cast on something else. I will bring something else in. The only exception, and it is an exception because it's kind of my rules, is the spinning. And that is kind of starting something new. But I want to do Spinuary. I want to try and spin throughout January. I have been very lucky to have an e-spinner for Christmas, and I've got about 3 hours of footage on my phone from yesterday, setting it up, nearly crying, not loving life at all. But then making some yarn. I have something on a bobbin. So there's going to be a separate Spinuary video, series of videos. So I might do 2 videos a week because I do quite like my weekly having a roundup and a bit of a catch up with what's going on. But I also like the idea of making sure that I have the spinning videos as well. So I might try and put a spinning video up Thursday or Friday this week, which will be the first one. We'll do the unboxing. You can see in detail my my spinning attempts. I've created some wonderful something. So a little teaser, more on that coming up later in the week. But that's the only new thing I really want to get done in January. So I'm going to run through the 5 projects that I've got now. I do need to turn the camera off in a minute. I need to run and get one of the projects. Let me do that now. Right, I'm back. I picked up the wrong project bag. So I now have, I'll tell you why now. So yeah, let me run through the projects that I've got. And the reason I chose 5, I talked about this on my channel. It's probably about 18 months ago now. And I've written about it on my Substack. So I have a written blog as well, where there's a little email newsletter that goes out every Monday, most Mondays, and just talks about my thoughts for the week. It's a little bit more, I was going to say lifey, but it's more like me talking about my love of autumn and planning projects. It's a bit more mindful rather than me just grabbing projects and throwing them at you on YouTube. So if you want to know more, I'll pop the link to the Substack article, the newsletter that I'm talking about. but I'll also pop a link for you to subscribe. If you don't yet subscribe to my Substack, why not? Click it, it's free. And you'll get a little email from me on a Monday, and you can read all about my plans coming up that week or thoughts and reflections. But this is relevant because, so about 18 months ago, I read something about a way of prioritizing projects called the Gideon Method. I'm not going to go into all the background. You can go and read that on Substack. But the principle of it is you pick a number of projects and you set out a certain amount of time, and you only work on those projects for that period of time. And it's a way to try and focus. So what I have is my 5 projects, and I'm going to allocate 10 hours to each project. So, for example, the first one I'm going to get to later today is my exploration station. So this was my last cast on of 2024, and this is the Exploration Shawl by Stephen West. And I am using my weekly advent that I bought from Anton of the Raw Wool Company. And as you can tell, it is these wonderfully natural colours. So Anton's wool from the Raw Wool Company is colours or wool as the sheep intended. So they're not dyed, they are blended based on the breed of sheep that Anton sources his wool from. So we've got from this cream all the way up to this really dark chocolatey brown. This is a 4-ply weight yarn, and I'm knitting this on 4mm needles. It is growing quite quickly, and I'm really pleased with the progress of it. So I finished all of the, I think they're called segments. So I finished all of the segments. No, they're called wedges. I finished all the segments, and you can see this wedge. So we have these wedges, these semicircle kind of. We've got these wedges then, and they're interspersed with lots of yarn overs to create these little holes as a little bit of texture. So this is going to be the first project that I'm going to do, and I'm going to crack on with this later because I've now reached the next section in the shawl, which is the brioche panel. So the shawl will go top down this way, but where we now going to get to is we're going to pick up stitches and create a panel all the way along here, which is a brioche section. And the brioche is going to be 2-colored brioche, and it is my colour B and colour C. So those two there are going to be my brioche. So little Sunday afternoon task, hopefully. Maybe a Sunday evening. I've got band rehearsal tonight. I play in a brass band, if you don't know. And band is back. We haven't had band over Christmas. We've just been caroling and fundraising. First rehearsal tonight. So if I don't get this done this afternoon, this will be my cast on, or my next step tonight. But the thing with the Gideon Method then is basically, this is going to be my first project. So I'm going to knit on this for 10 hours. And when my 10 hours is up, regardless of where I am, I'm just going to stop and I'm going to put it away in the project bag. It's currently living in this awesome Hide and Hammer roll top rainbow bag that I picked up from the lovely New from Hide and Hammer. So it's living in this project bag. And when I get to 10 hours, I stop. And I move on to the next project. And I quite like this approach. I did it for a month and I did make a bit of progress when I discovered it. And then I think we got into MCAL, Mystery Knit, a long time. And then I stopped because obviously it was all around the mystery shawl. I think that's why I stopped using it. I didn't stop using it because it wasn't working for me. It was really helpful. If you could tell, I can be quite chaotic sometimes, and I love flitting between projects. I think this is why I have 12 whips, because I love the research. I love finding yarn and needles and patterns. I love starting things. And then I'm like, oh, this is going to take me forever. And I kind of lose interest a little bit. Mark's jumper, which will be on the needles. It's not in this initial 5, and I'll tell you why there's a reason with these 5. So yeah, so then I'll move on to the next one. And the reason why the exploration station is on my list at the moment is Anton is going to be vending at the Unravel show in February. I'm going to go to the Unravel show in February, and I thought it would be really lovely to be able to take Fluff. I thought I'd spell squat. No, Fluff. I thought it'd be really lovely to be able to take my finished or nearly finished shawl and show Anton. I love doing show and tell. If I go to a show and I know a vendor's there whose yarn I've bought and I've made something with, I love taking it with me so that I can show them what I've made. And I know talking to lots of different vendors, that's something that they really enjoy, and they get to see their wool being used. So the reason why Exploration Station is on the list is I would love to be able to get it finished by the middle of February so that I can take it to Unravel with me and I can show Anton. I'm really excited by this project. I was obsessed with it over New Year because I want to go back and at some point make all of the mystery knit-alongs from Stephen West and make all the back editions. I've been doing it. The mystery knit-along happens every year. It happens in October, and we make a pattern. We make a shawl. We don't know what we're making. When the pattern gets released week by week over the month, and yeah, we don't know what we're making. Now, I joined in Starflake, and I think, so I've probably got about 7 or 8 before I joined to make them all. So Exploration Station was one. I don't have that one. And I thought it'd be really nice to make it in neutrals because lots of my Stephen West shawls are blues. My last year's one was pink and green, lots of bright, vibrant colours. And that's usually Stephen West's personal style. But I thought something neutral and muted would be really, really lovely. So I'm excited to get that one. So that's going to be the first one that gets the 10-hour treatment. The next one then, I don't know which order I'm going to work them in, but the next one I'll show you, which I'll then, once I get to my 10 hours, I'll then decide what mood I'm in. But they've all kind of got a timing story. So sticking with knitting, let's stick with shawls. The next one that's going to be on my, I've got project bags, they keep falling. The next one that's going to be on my rotation list is another shawl that I started over Christmas, another Stephen West pattern, and this is the Hyper Knit Along. So this is the Glowhair Frost Shawl. I think I've shown this off in a recent video. It hasn't really grown much more. I've finished section 6, I think this is. So we had this first opening section here, then we've come into this lovely fur dip stitch, into the reverse stockinette section here where I faded the colour in, then into the like the lacy leafy pattern. Then we've just got some mesh grid yarn overs, but again I faded the colour in. And the next section is a cable and lace section. So this was also a weekly advent. This was yarn by Gemma of The Little Grey Girl. And so the next colour, so you can see it properly, is this gorgeous purple. So that's going to be colour 3. And then I do also have colour 4 and 5, which are like really darky blues, or a light blue into a speckly bluey purple, I think. Is that way around? Or it might be speckly bluey purple, then into blue, I think. But again, I want to try and make as much progress as I can on this by February, because Gemma is going to be at the Unravel Yarn Show, and I would love to be able to have a finished shawl to take, same as the Exploration Station to show Anton, to be able to take and show Gemma. Now, I know you're all shouting at me now saying, yes, but 10 hours is not enough to finish a shawl, and it's not. So if we think about the Mystery Knit Along, we usually make a shawl a month. So in theory, if I wasn't working on other things, I could finish this in January, the Exploration Station in February, and we would be fine. There are other projects that I do want to make some progress on though. So if I don't finish them, it's my own internal deadline, right? Whatever I get to with both projects, I will take them with me to Unravel, but I would really love to try and get them finished. So that's the reason why both of these are on the list for February. For January to finish for February, because I think they would be really lovely to take the finished items with me. Section wise, I'm halfway on this one. But of course, because it's growing outwards, it's now the sections are getting longer. So I think I'm over halfway. I've just done section 6 and I think it's up to 12. So I've got 7 to 12 to go, but it does get bigger. So we'll see. And the same with the exploration station. I've got a brioche section and I think there's 2 other sections. That one's growing slightly quicker because it's on a 4mm needle. This is on a 3.5 and they're both 4-ply or fingering weight yarn. That's a heavier 4-ply than this one. So that one's growing slightly quicker. But that's the second project. So I will then spend 10 hours working on that one. Once we finish that, we'll then flick to another project. So this one is, you've seen before, but not for a while. This was on the list from April, so it shows you how long it is, and thankful that Gemma is very patient. These are the Painting Honeycomb socks, so another Stephen West pattern. This is the last Stephen West pattern for the month, I promise. I was going to say, there's a theme. So this was, or this is, a sock, the Painting Honeycomb sock. And this is wool also by Gemma of The Little Grey Girl. And these were intended to be socks for my other half, Mark. So Mark asked for a pair of pink socks. Gemma didn't do pink yarn really, but was toying with the idea of doing a fade, which you can see, we start here with this really light colour, and then we've started to come down into these darker, more reddy tones. Love it. It's such a fun gradient, and they're just little mini skeins. So this was originally meant to be for Mark. I knit a lot of I'm not a prolific sock knitter, but I can knit socks. I enjoy knitting socks, and usually with Stephen's patterns, I have to go down a needle size, which is what I did on this. I didn't swatch. I know, this is why we swatch. I didn't swatch, and they don't fit. So they don't fit Mark. So I agreed with Gemma that this was going to be a sample for her to have at shows to show off the gradient kit. Now, I started these in April. At that point, they were for Mark, so they weren't a sample for Gemma. But by the summer, we quickly realised that they weren't going to fit Mark, and then they would become a sample. And then very patiently, Gemma hasn't chased me for where the sample is that I said I would make. But I'm so close, right? I've nearly finished it. I've just got the foot to go. And because it's a sample sock, I only need to make one. So I really want to try and get this one finished again for Unravel, because I can give this to Gemma and she can use it on a stand. She's got a show at the end of January, or maybe it's in 2 weeks' time. So I'm not going to make it in 2 weeks' time for Waltham Abbey. The Waltham Abbey Wool Show. That's in a fortnight. I'm not sure. Maybe if I put this one first, I could get this finished in a fortnight and then she could have it for Waltham Abbey. I'm going to ring her later anyway. We've got to talk about something. So we're going to have a catch up. That sounded serious, didn't it? We're going to talk. We're going to have a catch up. I said I'd ring her. So I'll ask her if she wants this for January. If not, it'll be done for February. And then what I'm going to do is make another pair. So I have plenty of wool left over. So I then will start another pair for Mark. But obviously, if I do finish this in January, I will not be starting the pair for Mark in January. I will just put the wool and the needles aside until February. I might keep this going into February and then start projects in March. I might have a January, February blitz. We'll see. So again, this one's on the list because of timing. So I want to get that one finished by February as well. So that will be the third one that will have the 10-hour treatment. Then the next one, I have shown this off a few times before. I'm making a cardigan for my niece. I have 3 nieces and a nephew. And I'm making a cardigan for niece 3, Thea. This is the Madeline cardigan by West Yorkshire Spinners. And it will still fit her. I checked at Christmas, but we're getting close. If I don't get a wiggle on, she's not going to wear it. A, because it'll get warmer, although it's a lightweight cardigan. It's an open, so it'll just be an extra layer. But also, if I don't get a wiggle on, it's not going to fit her. So I've done, this is the these are the fronts. So it's bottom up, this one's knit. So I've done both of the fronts. No, it's one piece, bottom up. So you just basically knit one big wide piece, slight bit of shaping where the arms will go. And I've finished the body. So when I fold it around like this, I think I've got one more round, which is why I'm halfway around. You basically just knit and purl back and forth. So I'm at the point to join in the sleeves. Sleeve number 1, I've done the increases. I think I've got to do 4 inches, and then sleeve 1 is done. Need to do sleeve 2, then you join in the sleeves, you do the little yoke detail here, and then pick up the button band, and it's done. So that's nearly finished as well. So this is one that, again, with a bit of focus, a couple of hours knitting in the evenings after work, and I will hopefully have this off the needles. So again, this one is on the list purely because I have spent time knitting on it. I've made a jumper for my nephew, which is still in the bag, that I need to give to him. It's all ready. I just need buttons sewn on. I've sewn in the ends and everything. That's here. See, I just need to do the buttons. So I made this for Noah, and I don't know why I've not given it to him. So I made a little jumper, which was also a West Yorkshire Spinners pattern. That was the Jack sweater. So again, while the babies are still the right size to wear these, I want to try and get these finished by Christmas, and things conspired against me and I just didn't get to it in time. So again, on the list, so that I can gift them in time for them to wear them, and while it's still cool enough to wear them. They're both little, which is helpful. So that one's on the list. And again, like logic says, that one could go top of the list in the same way the sock could go top of the list. The only reason the exploration station is on the top of the list, because once I've done the brioche, not my favourite technique, I feel like I got better at it during last year's Mystery Knit Along. Once I've got the brioche section done, which could be a week, that could be my 10 hours of knitting, I could finish the brioche. It's not a big panel. The rest of the shawl is quite mindless in terms of techniques, I believe. I haven't read all of the pattern, but from what I can, when I had a quick skim read of it in the beginning before I cast it on, I think the rest of it's a little bit easier. So it might go a bit quicker then. So that's project 4 on the list. And then project 5, because I've got 4 knitting projects then, so I do like a bit of crochet. Project 5 is my Toft Roman sampler blanket, which is here. So this is the, this is how far I've got. So we started here with these 2 first sections, the camel and the grey. Where are they? I'm trying to see them from the reverse. Yeah, those 2. These 2 here, the camel and the grey, if you can see those. Yeah. And then it just goes out in a round. So there's 4 panels per round. So the round, I actually worked on this yesterday, kind of broke my own 10-hour rule, but we were going out and about into the city centre yesterday on Saturday. So I picked this up and I took this out with me, and it actually is quite, I remember it being longer, but it actually was quite quick. So I did panel 1, this grey. Oh no, which way around? No, panel 1 was this mushroom. Then we did panel 2, which were the trebles. Then panel 3 in the waffle stitch, and panel 4 in the ribbon. I think I got that the wrong way around, but it was basically the outer ring. So that's 4 rounds on the blanket, and I've got to do 6 rounds. So I've got 5 and then 6 and then a border. So I'm not far off. So I did those 2 yesterday, or that round, those 4 panels. I did yesterday. So I think this will be quite a quick one, even though the panels are getting bigger. It's actually quite easy TV knitting because TV crochet, because once you've picked up and worked out how many stitches you need for the next panel, it's just a 6-row repeat for that section. So nice to have a bit of crochet on the go. If I'm honest, and as I said, there's an argument that says on the exploration station, I'm going to be doing brioche just because of the way they've worked out. On the hybrid knit along, I'm going to be doing cables. I then got the sock and the cardigan are my easygoing. So I will reserve the right to say, I'm going to follow the Gideon method and I'm going to allow myself 5 projects, 10 hours, and then rotate. And then basically when I get to the end, say I do my 10 hours at a time. When I get to my 10th hour on this one, I go back to the beginning. And I then do 10 hours on exploration station and then 10 hours on the second one and so on and so forth until you get to the end of the 10 hours, then you rotate or you bring in another project if you finish something. I will reserve the right though that sometimes when you come home from work, you just need something a bit more mindless. So at the moment, the sleeves on the cardigan will be the mindless bit because it's just round and round. And I love double pointed needles. I'm one of those people. So they're really mindless, but I do quite like a bit of crochet as well. So I might interject ever so slightly if I need something a little bit easier. But I think I've got a bit of a mix of projects anyway. So I've got the cardigan and the blanket that are a bit more easy. They don't really need a lot of thinking. Then I've got the brioche and the cables that are a little bit more difficult to get your head around sometimes. And if you've had a really busy day at work, and by the time some days I work an office corporate job, by the time I then get home from work, we've eaten, you sit down and just think about crafting while you're watching telly. It could be 8:30, 9 o'clock some nights. So I won't be picking brioche up that night. So I would rather bend the Gideon method rule and do a couple of rows on this in order to still craft. This is the Knit365 channel. It's about how I spend my time crafting a little bit every day. I would rather craft something like that and bend my own self-imposed rule than think, oh, well, I can't work on that now because I haven't done my 10 hours. I still got 2 hours on exploration station. And then I'll end up sitting on the settee and not doing any crafting because the rule says I can't. So it's really just it's a different way of breaking down the projects. But I've got 5 projects and I think the method gives me a way of thinking about how I vary my time, that I can flip project to project. I can satisfy that itch when I go, oh, I've had enough of brioche now. I'm going to move to that project. Oh, I've done my 10 hours. So I think that's how I'm going to tackle January anyway. 5 projects, no new cast-ons. Who's with me? Loads of people commented on the short that I put on YouTube and the reel I did on Instagram. No new projects in January. Loads of people were like, yes, no, let's get those whips down. So imagine a world that I finished 5 things in January. We've got nothing on in January at all. We're seeing Hamilton. It's on tour in Cardiff in 3 Saturdays time, I think. Whatever the last day of the tour is in Cardiff, we're seeing it there. That's the only thing we've got booked in the diary. Apart from my regular band nights, which are Sunday evening and Thursday evening. I'm not traveling with work at the moment. I have no plans to go away. I've got nothing on in the evenings. We've got nothing on with friends or family. We're having a really quiet hunker down in January and do some crafting. So I'm optimistic there will be at least one finished object in February. But of course, in the weekly roundups, I will keep you updated with how I'm going and talk a little bit more about how I'm finding the Gideon method, how I'm finding the plans, and am I getting through things. But at the moment, I'm feeling really motivated and energetic for the year ahead. I've got loads of fun things that I want to do. Some things I'm planning and plotting that you'll hear more about maybe at the end of January into February. But really excited by my crafting. So I've kind of, again, these 5 projects, whilst they're They have a time thing to get me to February, mostly for Unravel. Oh, actually, there's an Unravel link with this one as well. Apart from it being crochet, so it's a different craft, Toft will also be at Unravel. It's a big show. Have you been? If not, come. It's in Farnham, which is kind of the south of England. We love it. We go every year, me and Mark. It's a 3-day show. The February one is a 3-day show, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There's an autumn version in September, which is usually Friday, Saturday. But the spring one in February is crazy. They queue out the blocks. Friday is really busy. If you want to come and you're not a big fan of crowds, the Sunday is the day for you. If you can make it on a Sunday, it will be a little bit quieter. Friday are the serious knitters and crocheters. They've taken a day off work and they are there. It was so busy last year. But also Toft will be at Unravel in February. So if I finish this in time, I can take this and I can do show and tell with Toft and I can show them my finished blanket. So hopefully I'll see some of you there as well. If you've got plenty of time, plan your diaries, come to Unravel. Let's chat. Let's do a little meetup in the coffee shop one day. Oh yeah, that could be a good idea, couldn't it? Okay, so that's my 5 projects for January. The other thing I'm doing then is I have bought 2 things. I bought a skein of yarn and I bought some fibre. More on those when they arrive. I bought some more fibre, I know. I wasn't in a good place yesterday with the fibre. I feel like once I film this, I'm going to go back to the wheel and finish. So I'm going to go back to the wheel and see what happens. But I have bought some fibre. I'm not on a fibre ban or a yarn ban. I kind of have done that before and went, oh, I'm not going to buy any yarn. And I don't know who I'm kidding because I'm always going to buy yarn. Stash acquisitions. And as I say to people, if I see people at yarn shows like, oh, I shouldn't really be buying yarn. Buying yarn and using yarn are 2 entirely different hobbies. And as soon as we make peace with ourselves, that's the fact, I think we're okay. So I have bought 2 things already this year, but I also figure times are hard for small business, right? It's a real struggle. We're in a cost of living crisis in the UK. And also, if I see something that takes my fancy and I've paid all my bills, I can buy myself a skein of yarn or a bumper fibre and I'm supporting some small business, because if there are small businesses that you love, if we shop from them, they're more likely to be able to survive. And January, February are notoriously quiet months for any business, like pubs, restaurants. They're always quiet in January because we've all been out festivating in December for Christmas. So I have made 2 little purchases already. I haven't seen anything else yet, so there's no third come in yet. But we'll see. You know, it's the 5th of January. There's still plenty of time in the month. So I have made 2 acquisitions, so I'll show those off in future videos. But the one thing I am going to do, and there's a lady who I've been chatting to, a friend of Kitey's. Kitey's the Yarn Whisperer, friend of the channel. Chanel is a friend of Kitey's. She's Mama of Yarn, I think, on Instagram. And we were chatting over Advent socks back in December. And I saw that she put on one of her Instagram stories at the end of the year. What she'd done in 2024 was count in and out the amount of weight in yarn that she'd used. And I think I'm going to try, now I found my book, I'm going to try and do that. So just a little fun game. Rather than being on a yarn ban and going, I'm not buying any yarn, I would love to then just say this year, because I have lots of yarn in my stash, can I use more yarn than I buy? And I'm just going to keep a little tally and see what happens. So if, for example, I can finish my exploration station, I've probably used 400 grams of yarn, because there are 4 skeins of yarn, and hopefully I'll use the majority of the skein, but I will weigh it at the end. But imagine that, being able to then say at the end of the year, sorry, itchy foot. At the end of the year, I've used more yarn for my stash than I've bought in. So then I will add in 100 grams in, because the skein of yarn I bought. or it might be in a 250 gram jumbo skein. Yeah, it was a 250 gram jumbo skein. So that's 250 grams in. But if I make a project with that, well, then there's 200 grams out, for example. So I'm going to keep a little tally. So a really great idea. And thank you for sharing that with us. And yeah, you may want to do something similar. Have any of you done that in the past? Let me know in the comments below. I know some people go on yarn bands, which is absolutely fine. You know, everyone does what you want. You do you, boo, as Katie says. And I am going to be a little bit more mindful with what I buy, because I do have a lot in my stash. I've got like wool here to make like 5 jumpers for Mark and I, to just cast on 5 jumpers. Like I am very fortunate. I have a big stash. Carefully curated collection is how I like to think of it. But I thought that would be an interesting one, just to have a look and see how much yarn I use versus how much I bring in. And now I found my book. All of this is going in the book. So we will see what happens. So stay tuned on that one. And I'll try and keep a little tally every month. I know folks, some of you really like the roundup when I just do like one video at the end of the month or the beginning of the month that says what I've done the month before, how many finished objects, how many whips have I got, new acquisition. So I will try and at least once, I'm going to still record weekly, but at least once a month, I'll carve out a specific roundup section. So included in that, then we'll weigh in and weigh out, and we'll see what the numbers are, and we'll see where, like February, I'm going to unravel, so it will probably tip up, and I'm guessing it'll do this. But as long as by the end of the year I've used more yarn than I've bought, I feel that's a bit of a small target. Not target seems formal, doesn't it? It's an aim. Aspiration, it's a dream. It will be a dream. So yeah, I think that's everything that I had to chat about. Gideon Method, weighing in yarn, 5 projects, unravel, spinning. I think that's everything. So yeah, it's been a busy start to the year already. I am excited by the projects that I've got. If you couldn't tell, I do feel a bit like an excitable puppy. I'm not sure if that's for all the crafting project or the fact I'm going back to work tomorrow. Like, I've worked over Christmas, but like tomorrow is like the first day back in the office, proper in work. It's going to be a busy quarter in my corporate job. My crafting is my release, is my break from my corporate job, but I feel like I haven't seen my team and seen people. So I think I'm feeling very January energized, and I don't know why. Yeah, lots of fun things on the go, crafting wise, work wise. Yeah, it's going to be, I'm channeling positivity and optimism, and I hope that some of that will help to rub off on you with your crafting goals. What are you aiming to do in January? Are you in on the no new projects? I know Ange from Yarn and Yarn, so I'll link Ange's channel below. Ange is doing her 12 cast-ons again. So between Christmas and the end of January, Angela's going to cast on 12 projects to set her up for her year of making. So Ange is absolutely not joining in on the no new projects in January. And I know some of you watch my channel, also watch Ange's, and join in on the 12 cast-ons. So yeah, I know it's not going to be for everyone. And some people love the new year, new project. That was me a few years ago. So I'd love to know what your plans are for January, particularly what about the rest of the year? Are there things that you want to do? Are you a knitter that wants to learn to crochet, a crochet that wants to learn to knit? Are you going to be spinning, weaving, all of the fibre things? Let me know in the comments below what your plans are for the year ahead. Let me know if you've ever done a measurement thing before. I'm just going to do it by weight. I think that's easiest, because 250 grams of chunky yarn and 250 grams of 4-ply is still 250 grams. So by weight, it feels the easiest way of doing it. But again, any other ways of monitoring my yarn usage, let me know. And yeah, I'll be back next week, check in on my progress. And then at some point this week, I need to find some time to edit the footage, because I do currently have, no word of a lie, about 3 hours of footage on my phone from setting up the spinner. And I managed to also, I used Mark's phone to do some footage this way. So if you don't follow me on TikTok, I'm just trying it. I don't really understand what I'm doing over there, but I'm going to try and do a little track record of my spinning every day. So I'll pop my TikTok below. And if any of you use the TikTok and want to come over and see, there will be a few behind the scenes spinning videos. I was very proud this morning while I woke up with my cup of coffee. I managed to take, there was a video that was the unboxing and the first bit of spinning that was 1 hour and 48 minutes, and I condensed it into 57 seconds. Which apparently TikTok videos should be less than 60 seconds. They need to be engaging in the first 3 seconds or people just swipe away. It's a whole new world. I'm never going to really break TikTok, as in I'd like to think I could be successful over there. Like, why would you not? You know, I'm not putting a barrier in my way going, oh, I'll never do TikTok. But it's new. It's not difficult. I say this a lot in the spinning video. It's not difficult. It's just new. So if you are on the TikTok and you want to come and follow me, and the fact that I'm a millennial calling it the TikTok, if you want to come and follow me on TikTok, the link's below. And then you'll get a few more spinning videos over there while you wait for the main spinning videos here. But later this week, I will condense the 3 hours of footage. And in fairness, 45 minutes of that was me doing this, going, I don't understand the instructions because I'm not very good at reading a written instruction. I need something visual to follow. And then having to call Mark for help. I don't know what I'm doing. So that's, I can cut 45 minutes out immediately. But yes, there will be a spinning video probably Thursday. Friday seems to be a quieter day. People don't really watch videos on a Friday. I'll try and do it Thursday. Then you've got it for the weekend. And yeah, I'll try and get that done so you can follow my spinning progress. The plan is to now try and spin a little every day. So first thing in the morning or when I come home from work, I'm going to try and do a little bit of spinning. I've got a fibre box from Charmaine of Yarn Tings that I want to try and spin through. But before I use that really nice fibre, I've got lots of really nice fibre. I'm not saying that anyone's fibre's not nice, but that was a specific box that I bought with the aim of spinning it all through. So I then have 12 finished skeins of fibre, mini bumps, but 12 skeins, mini skeins that I've spun to turn into a something. So I kind of want to feel like I'm getting there before I use that box. That box is a specific reason. So I'm going to try and spin a little every day. Bless you. I'm going to try and spin. He told me off this morning. He sneezed this morning and he said, bless me. And I was counting in my head. So I didn't say, because I didn't want to lose the count. I was counting trebles on here. And he turned to me as if to go, what? No bless me? And I was like, well, you blessed yourself. And I was counting. So bless you. Random tangent inside my head. So yeah, I want to, that's going to be a specific project. So I want to do a little spinning every day and just try and improve my technique. I need to hold the fibre and then I'm drafting. I've been practicing off the wheel. I feel like the Karate Kid. When he has to practice away from actually doing the karate things, I feel like I'm holding the yarn, holding the fibre loosely. And then I'm drawing it back, pinching, feeding it in, drawing it back, pinching. I think this is, but keeping my hands the same distance apart based on 2 staple lengths of the fibre. I've been watching videos this morning. Oh, you wait till you see some of the footage coming later in the week of my first. It's completely different to drop spindling. When you pinch and you have to hold it and pinch it to then wind it on, there's no real pinching because you're pinching and it's just spinning and spinning and spinning and it's not feeding in. And then there was a few moments when I kept calling Mark going, I can't do it, it's really hard. He's like, yeah, but this spinner was really expensive, so you're going to need to work it out. So you've got all that to come. So let's end this video there on a tease like that. Stay tuned later in the week for my first adventure into a spinning wheel, my e-spinner, the unboxing. I'll show you everything that's in the box, in the bag, and then we'll set it all up and then we'll try and spin. But it does get better, I promise. I have fibre on a bobbin that looks like fibre that's been spun. So small teaser. But thank you very much for being here. As I said, please let me know what you're up to in the comments below. I love to read all of your comments, and I am trying to be better at replying. Often there are a lot of comments, and I really do try and reply to as many as I can. If people ask, I read every comment. So if you ask a question, I will always answer it. But I love to read what you're all up to. So please let me know in the comments below. So thank you very much for being here. I will share more progress with you next week. We will get all the project bags out and work out what's not on the list. Is it 12? Is it 13, 14, 15? Who knows? But I will tell you next week. So thank you very much for being here. Until we speak again, happy crafting.